All right, welcome to our podcast, Sales Beast listeners. Today we have the amazing Holly Priestner. Holly, we are so glad to have you. We were just talking before, and it's been a long time since we saw each other in person, but it's always great to see you virtually. So thank you so much for joining us today.
I am so excited to see y'all, and thanks for the invite. You always make my day.
So Holly, we just want to hear from you. Can you just tell us a little bit about who you are, what your position is in your organization, who you work with? Let's let the listeners know who you are.
Absolutely. So I am the Chief Talent Officer for Place. Place is the number one, I'm not going to call it an expansion organization because really it's a platform in all of Keller Williams. And we did about 2 billion in volume last year. We have around 56 locations throughout the United States and Canada. For all of you Canadians that are listening, we absolutely love you. And I love participating in everything that y'all do up there. I'm in Austin, Texas, and our Place hub is in Bellingham, Washington. Place was founded by Ben Kinney and Chris Suarez. And what it truly is a platform. It's technology, marketing, all of the models and systems we talk about, like lead generation systems, coaching, training, and support, that all is bundled together to help business owners, the agents on their teams, grow really big businesses. I would also say that something I find really cool about Place is it doesn't matter if you are a brand new agent joining a Powered by Place team, or if you're a $100 or $200 million producer that plugs into the power of Place. You all have the same opportunities. And I think that that's what's powerful, that any agent on any team can start to grow their own team within the team and eventually become a partner. And so when we think about limitless opportunities, it's there in sales, but it's also in our ancillary businesses like title, mortgage, and insurance. As Chief Talent Officer, I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to tell you what I do. I'm very excited about Place, if you can't tell. As Chief Talent Officer, my main thing, we all wear many hats. My main thing is to look at our big operators and help them scale their organizations from an organization and talent development perspective. So, whenever they first come on board, meeting with them in a one-on-one situation, mapping out their roadmap to go from wherever their current production is to double to triple to quadruple. And then at the same time, I study the talent industry, not the real estate industry, but the talent industry, so that as things shift in the talent industry, that we're arming our operators with the best tools, technologies, scripts, processes, so that they can win the war on talent. Y'all, we really are in a war for talent right now. At this moment in time, if you're looking at job boards and getting real-time data, there's about 20% more opportunities than the pre-COVID baseline. So when we think about, we're not competing with the team down the hall or the brokerage across town, we are competing with major companies. We are competing with other sales types of businesses. And so we believe that that's a core tenet of how our businesses are going to scale, but also how the people in our world are going to live a very experiential life, is creating opportunities through other people. And that's what I get to do every single day, is help people do that.
That's super exciting and very, very well said. I love everything that you said there. So it's not just one role. You really have multitude of different hats, and it's really exciting to hear about that. So I know one of the things that we wanted to focus on, Holly, is especially for new agents or even experienced agents listening, is around how to control your world, how to control your empire, so that you're scaling your business year over year and you're creating a sustainable business model. So why don't you kind of lead that charge, and let's start talking about that.
Well, I love that you went straight there. It's one of my favorite topics, is really being in control of our own destiny, our own empire, our life by design. And it's really timely. We actually talked about this in our organization earlier today. So I presented on this. So it's a very fresh topic. I like to use Elon Musk as an example, and fitting since he was just on SNL. Right, he's a really busy guy. And whenever people study Elon, they say that he spends about 100 hours a week on SpaceX and Tesla. And, he's running from meeting to meeting. He eats lunch in like 5 minutes. But they also said he's an incredibly hands-on father, and that he's spending hours and hours and hours with his children every single week. And he also has personal hobbies. We also know that he reads a lot. And I like to go outside of the industry when we look at really any topic in real estate, so that we can see what we're doing isn't just about real estate, it's about building businesses. So this is why I'm going to Elon before going to Ben Kinney or Chris Suarez, who do this really well too. But what it is, people say, oh, he's just freakishly focused. He's a superhuman. No, he's just very effective at time blocking. And I think, we say the word time blocking and people automatically like start to tune out or roll their eyes or have limiting beliefs like, no, I need flexibility or people need me. And that's not the case when we look at the most successful entrepreneurs in the world. So, like, let's look at him or Bill Gates in the real estate world. I look at Ben Kinney and Chris Suarez, two of the most successful agents on the planet, not just within the Keller Williams ecosystem. They all are about this time blocking concept. And so we teach this at a really high level in place. And all of us, I mean, even me and you who are not in sales roles, we are CEOs of our own part of the organization. And so if you are an agent on a team, or if you're a brand new agent in production, or you're a rainmaker that has a $200 million business, we're all wearing that CEO hat. If you're a director of operations, you're wearing the CEO hat of your organization. And when you're laser focused and when you're moving the needle and working on what really needs to get done versus some big task list, that's when your organization truly becomes an empire. And that's when it gets into, I'm just going to say time blocking. So first, let's go to the science behind it. Because when we have proof of why we look at something, then we're probably more open-minded to dig into the actual tactics. And so just checking email, like not having an email time block, just checking your email, like picking up your phone, or you get off a meeting and you go into your email, that causes about 96 interruptions in a typical 8-hour workday. That adds up. Those 96 interruptions add up to an hour and a half a day that you're spent reorienting because you were really going on to your next task, but you just took that quick break to look at your email. That's taking up an hour and a half of your day over the course of the day. Each task switch might only take like 1/10 of a second when you're reorienting, but that adds up to about a 40% productivity loss, which is kind of crazy. Like, I don't want to lose 40% of my productivity. And studies have shown that whenever you're constantly multitasking and switching, you're accomplishing less, you're dropping balls, and that when you're laser focused and you're getting things done, you're less agitated, you have more energy, you're more present, and you make less errors. And that's why I love it. And, Ben Kinney taught a session at the end of the year. We're so spoiled in place that we get Chris Suarez and Ben Kinney every single day. But Ben Kinney taught a session at the end of the year last year, and I really took it to heart this year, is when you have just 1 hour of focus time a day, you're giving yourself 9 extra work weeks than most of your peers. And I like to think about one because we all have to start somewhere. We might think that we're focused, but sit down and time yourself and see how long you actually do something before you think, oh my gosh, I need to go check that email. Or, oh my gosh, that client texted me and I haven't texted them back. Or if you're working from home right now, because many people are still shut down, oh, I should go put that load of laundry in. Like, I've been really still for 30 minutes. I should go put that load of laundry in. And so when we think through that, like that 1 hour of focus time is harder than we think, and we need to start slow. We can talk. I mean, do you want me to share examples of time blocking and perfect weeks, or where do you want to go with this?
Yeah, well, I just want to kind of touch on those stats that you gave. Like, I think about how many times in between like meetings, I pull out my phone, I whip out a TikTok and I watch TikTok for a couple seconds, or I don't know. And that's crazy to hear, because the fact is, like, I could be so much more productive in that time. I could be prepping for my next meeting. I could be doing this and that. And you don't think about those things, right? Because they just seem like seconds or minutes. But when you're adding it up, you said you could get 9 extra work weeks just by adding 1 hour a day of focus. So that's huge. And I think it comes back to something I heard during family reunions, is just be 1% better every day.
Yes.
So I'm going to start being 1% better by adding that 1 hour of focus. It seems really, really important.
Yeah. And the thing about the 1% better every day. So in our organization, we have something called Win the Week. And if you win the week, 75% of the time, because we are not perfect and we were not going to set up anyone of the pressure of being perfect, but if you win the week 75% of the time, every month, you're going to be a massive GCI earner. Like, first year in the business, proven models that you're going to make 6 figures. If you continue to grow on that, right? We're growing millionaires in our organization. It's proven, the data's there. So when we talk about winning the week, it goes back to the proverbial, how do you eat the elephant one bite at a time? How do you win the day? Chris Suarez actually has a blog post on this. And it's like, hey, how do you win the day? Now, when I think about if we win the day, we win the week. If we win the week, we win the month. If we win the month, we win the year. But winning the day just starts with the small wins. And when we think about when we're in control over our empire, our organization, our life by design, okay, what are the things that we just need to knock out in the morning that give us momentum? And so I'll use the example that I shared with our team earlier today is, I haven't gone back to a gym. Like I've been exercising outside, but haven't been going to the gym just because of COVID precautions. And so it's like, I need to exercise when it's light outside. So I'll get up early and I'll knock out, 90 minutes of work, and then I'll go, do a workout outside, and then I'll get ready and, make my bed. I'm like, great, I've already won. I'm already feeling that momentum because I had that focus time in the morning before anyone was interrupting me. I might actually keep this even as we come into a new normal. I've already knocked out 90 minutes of focus time. I've had my workout. I've made my bed, right? I'm winning this day. Actually, my dog and I have like a little mantra about it. Right. And so, but when we focus on those small wins, like that gives me great confidence and great energy moving into the rest of the day. And again, we're not all going to be perfect the days that for some reason I don't do that. There was a couple of weeks ago, there were 2 days in a row that I didn't do that. And I was like, oh, right. When we talk about when we follow it, we have more energy. Yeah, I was down. And I thought if you can just count those small wins, and when we think about regardless of how big our organizations are, if we're just starting out, hey, what's the one thing that I need to do? And if I do this one thing, I win today. So if it's that one, I need to have 1 hour of focus time, and then I've won my day. There you go. Now we know there's a bunch of other things that have to happen, but we can do an hour. We can commit to an hour.
That's awesome. I love that. Now, around controlling your world, controlling your empire, and talking about that perfect week, if we're appealing to the realtors that are listening to this podcast, what would you describe as a perfect week? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so this is my favorite exercise on the entire planet. And I can pull up a very generic example for the people that are watching this on YouTube. So basically, and this is a very generic example. The perfect week is basically put together a spreadsheet. Don't worry, it's going to go into your calendar. We're not living by spreadsheets over in our happy place. But you put together the spreadsheet, and it's just like, okay, from 5 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. And what are the things that I must do? Now, we know that we need to lead gen. We know that we need to, do script practice. We know we need to go on appointments. Now, I want you, all of those of you that are in real estate, are new to real estate, I want you to look at this. This is a perfect week of a 6-figure GCI earner, because it's not about just filling time. It's about being purposeful with what you do with that time. So example, I can talk about lead gen levers if we want to talk about production in a moment, but it's what's important in real estate. We need to lead generate, we need to practice, but we need to have appointments. And honestly, I build in follow-up in my perfect week. Now, what you do is you take this and then you just set all of these things as recurring calendar invites in your calendar. So I'm just going to take a big risk. I can't believe I'm even doing this on YouTube in front of 1 million people, but I'm just going to go to July 13th. Look, all of my time blocks are in there. Right? So whenever you have that perfect week built out and then you go put it in recurring time blocks in your calendar, then you just go in and fill the specifics as they happen. Because you're a new agent and you're listening to me and you think, Holly, I don't know what appointments I'm going to go on July 13th. You know what? Neither do I. And I have appointments as well. But I know that if I tell my client, hey, are you available, or a candidate or whoever I'm meeting with, are you available on Tuesday or Thursday from 2 to 4? What time works best for you? You're taking control of that. There's a quote from the CEO of Netflix, and it said, we're in the service industry, we're not servants. And I think that's important for us to remember, regardless if we're in brokerage leadership, team leadership, if we're an agent and we're servicing our clients, we can put boundaries around that. Now, I've been the problem client where someone, for a real estate agent, last time I bought and sold a home was when I worked at KW Corporate, and I was on the executive team. I never left the office. So I didn't go see homes during the day. They actually brought closing to me. But those things happen. So I don't want to be Pollyanna about it. But whenever we try to dictate that narrative, like, do you have this time or this time available? We can take control. And then we just go in our calendar and say, guess what? I'm taking Mike on July 13th from 1 to 3. That appointment slot's for Mike. And so you just build it out and you fill in the specifics from then. I would say it's mission critical to have follow-up time. And the more granular you can get in your perfect week, the better. So for example, when I say granular, let me pull up a place win. So we have something that we call, my day in the life of the database. And we use Brevity as our database. And whenever we build out a perfect week, we build out all the priorities from my life in a database in here. So it's not just like, oh, I'm lead generating from 9 to noon. It's like, this is what I'm doing during those times where I'm knocking out my Brevity hot things, because we know Brevity does a lot of the heavy lifting for them, but also then they're getting to their lead gen lever at the end of that. But when we get super granular on what we need to do, down to, okay, now I'm going to do my tracking and my follow-up. Now I'm going to call these people. Then I'm going to do my prep for my appointments. Like you said, I should be spending that time prepping for my next meeting instead of looking at TikTok. But when you can get super granular about what's going to happen, it makes it easier for you to win.
Thank you for sharing that. Again,
That's awesome.
Oh, Mike, you can go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, you guys lost me for a second there. Internet issues, but I have some questions for you. So I love what you're doing. We do something similar up in Canada when it comes to time blocking, but I was actually talking to one of the agents on our team the other day about this. A lot of our guys and gals, they don't take those appointments that they commit to for themselves as seriously as they would an appointment that they make for their clients. They'll always show up to their appointment at 3 p.m., their listing or buyer appointment. They don't always show up to their lead generation appointment every single morning. Are there any tools you guys have to increase the likelihood of people showing up and get them to that 75%?
Yeah, so let's talk about this from a global perspective. So depending on if your state or your country or province is open or not, is there's so many different rules right now. And so, one thing you notice, like in our world, we have a power up in the morning. And so if your community is not open and you're doing everything virtually, great, do it on Zoom. And then do your power up. And in our world, like power ups, like, hey, tell me something good. And everyone like talks about good things that have happened. And then here's, like a place tool that we're going to like practice really quickly. And then how are you going to win your morning? Like, what's the one thing to win your morning? What's the one thing to win your afternoon? And then, okay, great. And then you can just leave that Zoom room open where everyone's still doing it together, even though they can't be in the same physical space. If you're a team, different teams operate in different ways, even in place. Like we have teams that are very much like we're in the office, and we have teams that are more flexible. So the other thing is, so if you're a team that's in the office, that's awesome. Bring everyone together. If it's more flexible, what does your tracking look like? What is measured is met? And whenever we talk about in real estate tracking and people think, oh, that's so big brother and I'm an independent contractor. It's not about that. It's about ensuring that you're doing the right activities that set you up for success. And then if you're not seeing conversion, how do we, prescribe you the right training, scripting, coaching to get you to success? And so that's where, if we're thinking like, hey, how do we get people to do this? We can see if they're doing it or not. Part of it, we can look in Brevity at any point in time and see actually who's nailing it. We can see their trackers. And right, we're the top 1% of real estate agents. So if they don't want to do that, they're not in the right place. So I also think part of that is like setting the standards on your team of, hey, this is what it takes. Like, do you want to be a millionaire? Do you want to have that experiential life? Do you want to grow a business that scales, but your life is also scaling in a really fun way? Because that perfect week and the tracking and using a database that gives great data, that's not for anything other than yourself. That's whenever you get to move on to your evening activities and you're enjoying them because you have all the pieces tied up with a pretty bow.
For sure. If you can stick to a calendar like the one you showed us, it brings a lot of efficiency to your life. So if your goal is to sell 30 houses in a year, by sticking to your system, you're going to get there so much faster, probably twice as fast. And then the rest of that time you can spend with your family off having your experiential life.
Yeah, well,
that's the beauty of this business. You don't need to work a 40-hour, 50-hour, 60-hour week if you don't want to.
You don't, but also time block the things when you said they're not keeping the appointments with themselves. So right, lead gen time, but also what are the other things that go when we get busy or we're scattered? Date night, time with friends, gym. And so you'll see in the one that I just showed you, and I put my own personality on this, right? It says sparkle instead of get ready. I'm like, oh, I'm going to sparkle, like get fit, whatever it is. Friends and family, read, prepare for the next week. But do those things. We have one of our agents on one of our Austin, Texas teams right now is planning her wedding. And so she's gone into her perfect week because she's so all in on the wedding and she doesn't want her business to suffer. So she's gone into her perfect week and she's like, this is when I'm planning my wedding so that I don't start chasing squirrels. It's the discipline, and that discipline is what gives you freedom. And when you get prescriptive about what you need to do and you're kind of boring, quote boring for those that are listening and not watching the YouTube, when you get boring in those things that you have to do, that's when you have the energy and the space and the mindset to be creative in the things that you really like are excited about doing.
I see that so much in realtors that I like talk to every day, even some that are part of our offices or within our team, is like their expectation with their clients is that they have to be available 24/7. And that's the mindset that they come into this industry with. And if you don't catch them early, or if you don't like teach them that early, well, they're going to continue with that mindset for the rest of their career. And then you see the grumpy older realtors that are still working 24/7 and hating their lives and never really created that structure and time and expectations for themselves and their clients. So I truly believe that's important. And that's something that I know Mike has implemented heavily and that I've implemented early, because that's how you control your life and that's how you control your empire, like you talked about.
Well, and look what happened. You got another opportunity, right? I mean, you're in a leadership role in a market center and on a team. And that's what really opened my eyes, was watching. And I'm going to use Chris Suarez as the example because he's the person that changed my world on this. But I watched him, started with his MREA team that was netting $1 million a year. Then he started KW Costa Rica. Then he started buying brokerages. Then he did an expansion. Then he got more brokerages. And then it was a coaching company. Right now, Chris and I are building a tech startup around talent in the real estate industry, right? That's how those opportunities come into play. So when I joined Chris's world, I was wearing 2 hats. And then now I own part of a real estate team and lead a real estate team and a really big real estate team. I mean, we've closed, 1.5 in production so far this year. I mean, and GCI this year. This tech startup, like, it's when we get focused, that's not because I'm some superhuman. That's because someone spent time and they helped me fine tune this. And that's what you've seen in your world in the last year. As Sandy's world's grown, so is yours. Like, and you get to do a podcast. How cool is that?
Yeah, well, this podcast actually stemmed from the first time that we met you. It stemmed at the Growth Summit, where we were surrounded by all of these amazing people and we wanted to stay in front of them.
Well, but I love it that that's where this came from. I don't think I put 2 and 2 together on that when we talked about it. But the Growth Summit, I wrote this down, and anytime I'm teaching internally about time blocking, I use one of the panelists at the Growth Summit, and I wish I could remember who it was, but he talked about the boundaries that he puts in place for clients, but also for other agents. And so he only accepts offers in certain time periods on certain days of the week. And
I think that's Jeff Ham.
Yes.
Yeah, that was one massive takeaway I took home for me with the Growth Summit. I never forgot that.
Yeah. So if you're setting boundaries about when you're accepting offers, when you're going to communicate back that the offers are accepted or not, and you're setting those boundaries, and you're not getting all those one-off calls and text. And I think, someone asked me this earlier today, but how do you do it? I'm like, if you're setting expectations and you're communicating at a high level with the agents in your market center, or your brokerage, or agents on your team, or your clients, or people that you're around, when you're setting those expectations and they just know what to expect, and you're also being systematic, right? When you look at rolling out your perfect week and you're like, this is when I'm calling the people that I have under contract, and this is where I'm calling my hottest buyers, and you're communicating proactively, and you have the system in place, that's where the setting expectations, that's where a lot of the stress that we feel, the older realtors that are tired and their hair's on fire and there's nowhere for their business to go other than them. And that's what they're feeling because they haven't set those expectations. If you communicate and you train everyone around you, it makes a really big difference.
I love that. Now,
Sure.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, I'm at the cottage right now. Yesterday was a disaster. I have my kid to get packed up, my dog, my wife, myself. My head's in 1,000 different places. And at times I feel like that in my business, but usually not, because I just show up and do the same thing every single day. And all the hard, laborious thinking just doesn't exist in my life for the most part. It's just rep after rep after rep, and the business spits out consistent results. It's amazing.
Well, and we have those days. I'm laughing. I had that on Tuesday. We have those days, and that's okay. That's why we're like, hey, win the week 75% of the time, because we're never going to be perfect. But it's interesting that you said this. Alex Frank, who's a Keller Williams, actually one of the original founder of Keller Williams Young Professionals, he's in Houston, Texas, and he's part of our place world. And when Harvey hit, Hurricane Harvey, Houston was underwater. And then Alex spent about 6 weeks just volunteering and helping like people in their homes for those 6 weeks. And he like looked up, and if y'all know Alex, biggest personality ever, he can chase some shiny, shiny squirrels. And whenever Alex looked up, and it was, you know, it was Q4, whenever that 6 weeks was over. And he was like, gosh, I have a goal to hit. And so what he did, it wasn't like I had to think, he didn't have to think about it. He didn't have to like go, what do I do? He's like, here's my playbook. Here's my system. I'm just going to plug in. And he ended up exceeding that goal. I mean, by like, he exceeded the goal by like $1,000, but that was taking 6 weeks off towards the end of the year, but just plugging back into a system. So like you said, you know what you need to do to show up. So if you have the day that it's chaotic and the kids and all these things, the dog and all these things are happening, or hurricane, and it takes you out for 6 weeks. But when you plug back into a system, that's when you still hit your goals and you feel calm.
It's true. And I would like to, oh, Mike's cutting in and out. We'll have to edit a bit. Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Anna?
I'm here.
Okay, I can hear you.
Okay, I'll ask my question next then. Sorry about that. So Holly, what I was going to ask you next is, okay, we have the perfect week, what the calendar should look like, obviously setting the expectations. Now, your team is so purposeful and your organization is so purposeful around the lead gen levers. I'd love to focus on that for a little bit, what that looks like and how even the people on your team determine what their lead gen levers are going to be.
Yeah, so I'm going to say this 2 different ways. One, we get in the habit of we're thinking we need to do all the things. You know, we go to a big conference and we're like, oh, I'm going to farm, and then I'm going to do mailers to this other community, and then I'm going to like get on the social media campaign. We can't do all of those things, right? When we talk about it, we're not here just to work. We're here to power, you know, as we call it, an experiential life. And so we want that purposefulness and that intentionality where we're not chasing too many things, because there's so many different things that work. There's so many different ways to prospect. So when we think about lead gen levers, we would say that there's 3 legs to your stool, your lead gen stool. And leg number 1 is going to be like your actual lead gen lever. Leg number 2 is going to be the technology, like internet leads, right? We don't grow businesses on leads, but they're a nice supplement. And then number 3 is going to continue to cultivate your sphere. Now, when I think about a lead gen lever, so just focus on 3 things. The 3-legged stool. Now, the lead gen lever is like the thing that you're going to do to build the business. Even if we move to a new market, somehow we're going to have the sphere. Right, our sphere is going to be where we used to live, and we're calling them going, hey, who do you know in Austin, Texas? I just moved from Hamilton, Ontario to Austin, Texas. I'm like, who do you know in Austin, Texas? The world is small. The other thing is we start to call people in our previous location. We're going to get referrals. We're going to start to see some business. So sphere doesn't, right? We're not talking about our sphere. We need to work our sphere. We need to do our internet leads, but then we need to go to a lever. And so when I think of a lever, is it open houses? Is it door knocking? Is it FISBOs, expireds? You know, what does that look like? Pick one. Now I'll say this, there's elements of each of them, they overlap. So let's use open houses as an example. In our world, if you're like, okay, my lead gen lever is going to be open houses, great. The model is hold 2 open houses a week. For every open house, you're going to door knock 25 doors, and you're going to make 50 dials per open house. So there's some circle prospecting in there. There's some door knocking in there. Like you need to have the skills, but it's going to be open houses as your lead gen lever. It's super simple, right? Call the day before, door knock the morning of, if you're doing a morning or, you know, an afternoon one, you know, put out no less than 10 signs and try to get an open house off of a thoroughfare, but make it easy, right? Success is simple, not easy. Make it simple. Success is simple, not easy. But, right, just come up with like a formula of this is what I'm going to do, and do the same things over and over again. One of the things that we see new agents especially do, especially new agents do, is like, okay, they're going to start like, okay, I'm going to do open houses. And then they're like, I don't see immediate results. Oh, I'm going to shift to door knocking. I don't see immediate results. Oh, I'm going to shift to FISBO. So I don't see immediate results. We don't see immediate results in real estate, but the same task, time over time, is what leads to those results. And so that's why we have levers built out for each of those things. Now, as far as you asked, how did someone determine what they want to do? Now, our launch process, we have a director of launch that regardless if you're a huge operator or a brand new agent, you go through a 90-day program that helps you learn all of our systems, but also get into a higher level of production. During launch, you're trying all kinds of different things, right? And I'm not going to say try, it's very systematic and it builds. As Ben Kinney would say, success happens when priorities get done in the right order. So you're learning systems, you're learning new scripts, you're learning new presentations, how to use technology tools, how to use marketing, and you're building your business as you do that. But whenever, as you start to level out, then it's like, okay, I really enjoy this and this gives me energy. Because if you love open houses, but you decide you're just going to do expireds, you're going to get tired and you're going to get burned out. So you need to look at, hey, there's always going to be an element of real estate that I don't love. I mean, it's work, right? There's going to be something that I don't love, but how do I do real estate in a way that I love, 80 or 90% of it?
That's awesome. That's such a common, I love what you said there about people trying one thing for a day or a week, it doesn't work out, and then they jump to the next thing, and then the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. But it seems to me it takes time to build a pipeline, and you really need to give whatever method of lead generation time in order for you to start reaping the rewards of that. So I think it's great that you prep people for that in advance. It's probably something we need to do more of, because sometimes our people jump into it and they're expecting results day of. They have a bad day where there are no results, they quit and move on to something else, like you said. So I love that.
Mike, I love that you just said that. So we write internal consulting on talent, and there was a newer team that just happened. They had someone leave on day 3 of launch, and
Yeah.
over this, but it goes back to setting expectations. They're like, whoa, like this is a lot. I don't think I want to do this. And so we need to set expectations when we look at building teams or growing our teams larger, is how are we setting expectations on like what it takes to be successful in our world? How do we set expectations on, that delayed gratification? Making sure they have the ramp time. If they're stepping out of a job that they've been like a full-time employee, they're getting paid, like, do they have the ramp time to be able to not be nervous about that, having those conversations early on? And then I would also say, setting expectations. A lot of times when people are going on teams, they're worried about splits. And when I look at a team, I'm like, that's all about profit. Like, I rather would lead with revenue and have someone coach me and train me and give me a proven playbook. That's all about profit. And so having like business conversations with them. But when we look at trends of, I talk to a lot of, it's a great opportunity to get to talk to a lot of teams inside and outside of our organization. The people that are outside of our organization that are looking for more consulting, that's one of the things, like, how do we set the expectations early on so that we don't have those challenges? And instant gratification is one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah. Can we, I don't think we were planning on talking about this today, but you just brought something up that interests me. What do you guys do to pour the value on so you don't have as many of those conversations about splits? I have a lot of people that come into our world and they say, Mike, first year, I want you to help me make 100 grand. Okay, we can do that. We have tons of people in our organization that have done that in their first year. This is how we're going to do it. Here's the split. Ooh, I don't like that split. I thought I was going to take home a lot more per deal than that. I'm out, or we have to, it's a conversation that I never had personally. Sandy came to me and said, here's how you're going to make 100 grand. I don't care what my split is. I don't even know what a split is. Sign me up. I'm going to get started tomorrow. What do you guys do to overcome those agent objections and pour value into your people?
I love that question. And we all want the recruit that's just like you, that's thinking about this as a business owner, because you're a business owner in Sandy's world. And I think that's one thing, who are we, again, answer this in a couple different ways, but who are we attracting? So, and what are our early conversations? Because, if I'm in a conversation with someone early on and they keep bringing splits back up, I'm like, oh, they're not going to be right for our organization, because like on our teams that are powered by Place, we're not just hiring agents, we're hiring people that want to grow their own businesses and be entrepreneurs. And we're giving them a faster way to do that through our teams, through our playbook, through the coaching. So I would say, like, first of all, are we talking in the right conversations? Now, is it perfect? No. I mean, hence the conversation we had earlier this week in the talent training, where they're like, oh yeah, they left on day 3. I'm like, okay, well, let's talk, let's unpackage, let's go back to the beginning. What did our conversations look like? So are we in the right conversations with the right people? Are we presenting it as, hey, you have the opportunity to grow your business with the same profit margin as the business owner? This is depending on your value stack. In our world, we can say, hey, you're getting the value that you can grow your business at the same profit margin as the owner. We're providing you things that would take, 10, 20, 30 years to build, and we're going to give you a faster runway for your Ferrari. So it's part of, having that. But I would say, for really getting to the heart of the value is, and I laugh, I have one partner in particular that we have like an inside joke about this. I'm like, quit selling. So really, when we're in conversations with talent, it's about them. We shouldn't be talking. And right, we should ask the questions. We should sit still. We should listen. We should be writing down verbatim. If anyone's been in a talent class with me, write down verbatim what they're saying, so that we're not summarizing what we think is important to them, but we're seeing it in their language. I mean, we're looking for language patterns to figure out if they're the right fit or not. But when it gets down to then how do we reinforce our value, then after those conversations, or towards the end, saying, you know what, Mike, you mentioned that you want the opportunity to do something creative. My world, Sandy, I would totally say this, my world's growing. What do you want to create? Like, right? You want a podcast? Great, let's do it. Or if it is, Mike, I heard you say that you're really excited about technology. Like, did you know, I mean, this is what I would say, did you know that we actually own Brivity, and that every feature that's in Brivity, or every iteration or innovation that we do on Brivity, that's coming from you. So you actually get to play a hand in building this technology. I'm so excited that technology is important to you. And you know what? Brivity is more than a CRM. It's this marketing, it's your website, it's your marketing suite, and it's your personal assistant. Let me show you a little bit more about how this technology works. You talk about the value that's important to them. When we start just talking about all the things, we're going to lose them, because not one person on the planet cares about every single piece of value that we bring. I wish that was the case, but it's not.
And I have another question for you. Does that upset you when you offer all this value? I know our team offers tons of value, and I see the same thing. Certain things just don't interest certain people, and certain people get very upset about it, that some people in our organization aren't excited about the piece of value we offer. And I personally think that's okay.
We got to meet. I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to negate what I'm saying. Like, we need to meet people where they are. Just because they're not excited about it doesn't mean they shouldn't integrate it. Mm-hmm. So maybe, I'll be honest, I wasn't a huge database girl until we actually got Brivity. And now I'm like, oh my God, how did I live without Brivity? It's amazing. But we had Sync before Ben and Chris merged together. And when we switched to Brivity, I was like, this is phenomenal. And I'm not excited about, traditionally not excited about databases, but when I can see a tool, I needed to use it, because you're on a team for a reason. When I started to see the power of the tool, and I see that it makes my life easier, even though I was more excited about, oh my gosh, I have something in my hand right here. I was more excited about this beautiful market recruiting guide, or the listing presentation, or whatever it is. Right. I was excited about the pretty things, but that doesn't mean that I wasn't going to become excited or integrate on something else. And so if they're not excited, it's like, okay, but do they understand how this is going to make their life better? And when I can see how Brivity is making my life better, the lives of our operators better, the lives of our agents better, sure, I'm all in. And guess who's referring people to Brivity nonstop now? So I would say, yeah, they're not going to be excited about everything in the beginning, but when they start to implement it and see how it changes their world, they're going to be very excited. I sound like a Brivity commercial. That was not intended.
I called an agent with a different company the other day, and I asked them what their CRM was, and they're like, oh, you're going to know them. I think the owner's with KW. I'm using Brivity. I'm like, yes, of course I know their owner, and I know that whole team. That's so exciting, and it made the conversation so much simpler just with that one talking point. So props to you guys. You've got some Canadian fans for Brivity as well.
Yay. Well, thanks for being excited. You truly are a bestie, as we call each other.
Yeah. Awesome. Any other questions that you have, Mike, or anything else that you'd kind of like to touch on, Holly?
I'm here to answer your questions and to do whatever y'all need.
For a new agent that taps into your system and follows the pretty calendar you showed us half an hour or so ago, what kind of results can they expect in their first year?
Yeah, if you're plugging in, you'll be a six-figure GCI earner in year one. We see it over and over. It's all about integration. And I would also say this for, big teams that plug into our power, and like, how quickly will I see results? I'm like, that's up to you. If you come in and you integrate, you'll see like massive jumps in your numbers. And I'll give an example, a recent 1.5 million GCI team went to 3 million GCI in 1 year. We see massive results, but for those new agents, if you come in and you plug in, you will see six-figure GCI in year one. Austin Kettner, our partner of the Kettner Group in Ontario, and we're going to be announcing a launch in Legacies very, very soon in June. And I know that there's some of us on this call that are super excited about that. But yeah, hi, my name's Holly. My email is holly@place.com. If you ever have questions about ramping up in Canada, we would love to talk to you, because we have the proven model. And if you want to be a six-figure GCI earner, GCI earner, your first year in real estate, we got you. If you want to take your $2 million GCI business to 3 million, we got you. We'd love to talk. Thanks for that softball question, Mike.
You heard it here, folks. You got to reach out to Holly if you want to grow your business. Definitely very excited. Like you mentioned, by the time this episode's out, I'm sure we will have announced our partnership, but watch out for that. So I'm really excited about that as well. Now, I want to start kind of wrapping things up here, and I want to ask you one final question, which is something that we ask all of our guests, Holly. So who do you know that we should have on this podcast?
Is it okay if it's a place person?
100%.
Yeah.
Jeannette Spinelli. Do y'all know Jeannette Spinelli?
I don't think so.
Okay, so Jeannette Spinelli is one of Keller Williams' top luxury agents. One of the reasons that I bring her, well, I'm going to bring her up for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons I bring her up is because y'all have really high price points around, well, in the GTA area and even, the suburbs. And I mean, I know Canada in general has high price points. And Jeannette is a luxury leader in Keller Williams. She has won the award that KW Luxury puts out that is, it's called the Moby Dick Award, and it's for selling the largest house in Keller Williams. She's won that twice. And Jeannette teaches a class, Launch into Luxury. It's about stair-stepping your price point where you eventually end up in luxury. Jeannette came from very humble beginnings. And you look at her and you think, oh, you were just born into this luxury world. And it's not. She has a really scrappy, cool success story. But the other thing that I want to say about Jeannette is kind of tell the story about her numbers. So I've known Jeannette for a long time because I'm in Austin, Texas, and so is she. And Spinelli Residential Group is the name of her team. And Jeannette gives back to the community at a high level. Jeanette's like a really cool human that I adore and love. And then she plugged into us, and she was already profitable. Jeannette is, slowly setting her business up for someone else to take it over. That person is Hillary Cabanis, who I absolutely love. Like whenever we set up businesses, it's like opportunities for the next person. And we had like this really cool plan. Jeanette's business was really awesome. So she joined us midway through 2019. And so her business in 2018 was 43 million. In 2019 went to 47.3, so a slight increase. She was only with us part of the year. It went from 47.3 in 2019 to 81.5 in 2020. And this year to date, they've already closed 41 million. And I think she has about 30 million pending. And so when we look at that success, right, I mean, they're already close and pending almost where they were last year altogether. When you look at that track record of success, it's because Jeannette committed to a program and integrated and did the really hard work. And Jeannette lives a very experiential life. She was on below deck on one of the like the sailing ship in Greece. She owns part of KW Cabo. She travels a lot. She's a lot of fun. And I share this because I think when we think about, hey, I'd like to learn from someone that can teach me something, and someone that really walks the walk as far as like, I'm building a scalable business. I'm setting up opportunities for other people. I've created a successful business and I'm living experientially. I think Jeanette's a great role model, and I'll be glad to introduce y'all via email.
Great. I really appreciate it. I do have one last question. What was the price of the home that she sold? I'm really curious to know.
You know what? I don't know that. I do not have any of the details on that house. I'm really sorry, but I think that's a great thing to ask her.
That's our first question.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Holly, again for your time. It's a pleasure seeing you as always, and can't wait to see you again.
It is an honor, and I'll send you Jeanette's information now, and I hope you'll have a great rest of your day.